they work. This is a very brief overview of how these machines work. 3D printing is rather complicated. There's all kinds of fiddly bits you can get into about standoffs and how to put a brim in. It's quite complicated. Again, the modern pedagogy is to go onto YouTube, watch some tutorial videos, and then watch this on how our particular machines work here. Now again, your membership gets you access to the space, the tools, and the community, but you're responsible for bringing your own materials. So if you're going to be printing in PLA or ABS or TPU or any of the other filaments that are out there, those can be found at multiple locations online. If you go Amazon, make sure to go through the Smile and find your friendly neighborhood Yakima makerspace, and we get a small percentage when you buy that stuff. This is the tool that you will be, or the computer rather, that you'll be using to start your file, slice it, figure everything out, and send it to print. We use a program called Cura here. Right here on our dashboard, or on our pin list. Once this opens up, over here we have profiles built for all of the 3D printers you see here, and some that are no longer here. 3D printers are rather finicky and they break, and people have donated stuff and they've taken them home. But you can usually find the one that you're looking for. The ones we have here right now are the CR10 and the Prussia, and we have the Monoprice and the Mod T. This is new, and so that's not quite there yet, but it's the Monoprice. And then let's see, what else do we have in here? Those are the main ones. We're going to be using the CR10 here. So I'm going to click on the CR10, and that's going to load the profiles for the bed of the machine and the gantry height. If we go over here, we'll click here. Here we're going to see the profile information, right? Then we have some presets here. Dave's made his custom preset. Please don't change that. Same thing, he's made his preset, and he's even said please don't save over it. Once you've changed your setup and you get something you like, you can save that and put your name on it, and most folks won't mess with it. That's just say we're going to do a standard quality. It's going to come up with all of our little bits on wall thickness, and it's going to come up with where we want to fill gaps and our infill and our patterns. We can change our pattern on our infill. Again, go to YouTube. Watch more of a master class on this. Here I'm just going to open up and show you how to print here. Alright, again, we can change our temperature, printing temperature here, first layer, second layer, the build plate temperature that has a heated bed, and our print speed, cooling. There's all kinds of controls to really get that perfect print. Now, because I don't have anything set up just yet, I'm going to go to Chrome here, and I'm going to open up Chrome. These print through something called Octoprint, and I have all of the profiles for each one of our printers set up in the dashboard. So if you just open up Chrome, then you'll be able to click on the CR10, and it should find it on the network. Oh my goodness, lots of updates to do. We'll just do that later. Please don't make updates on the machine, let us do it. Sometimes they break things. Here we can see that we have our connection is solid, right? So it already sees it. If it didn't see it, it'll ask you to connect. It usually does that just fine. And now we have control over we can see our temperature of our machine. We have control over the XYZ. Over the extruder. We can view our G-code when we actually have something loaded. We can actually watch it happening. And then when we got the camera set up on these, which we haven't done yet, we would actually be able to do time lapse of your print, which is pretty cool. We just haven't hooked up a USB camera yet. If you're into that sort of thing and you feel comfortable, come talk to us, and we can work on setting it up together. All right. So one of the things that I want to do is I want to show you how to change your filament so that you're printing with your filament. That requires warming up the printer so that the filament doesn't break off in the extruder. And so to do that, again, we're going to go to Chrome. We're going to find the profile of which one of the printers we're using. We're using the CR10 here. And then what we want to do is on the tool head, we want to heat that up. And so we're going to go 200 degrees Celsius, and I'm going to hit check. What's going to happen is that's going to start heating up that extruder head and you'll watch this bar slowly ramp up as it gets to temp. Once it's at temp, you can see it changing here, then what we can do is we can remove the filament that's in there and put in our particular filament, because it's maybe the color we don't want white, maybe we want blue, or maybe we want to print an ABS, that sort of thing. While we're waiting for that to happen, how about we go find something to print? So I'm just going to go to Thingiverse. If you've never been to Thingiverse, Thingiverse is fantastic. You can find all kinds of great stuff here, resources for the house, and toys, and all kinds of cool things. Look at this. Here we go. This looks pretty cool. I need to stir some paint. Oh man, look at that. Just on a singular dowel, I can have a paint. Now this is fantastic. So all of the files we can see. It has its CAD files in here, so we can see what it is. And that's a nice rendering of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to download all these files. And it's going to tell me to take echinacea vitamin C. Cool. Downloads that. It's making a zip file. I'm just going to click on that and open that up. Oops. And here they are. It just opens up in the download file. Files are right here. I'm going to click on that. Oops. So I'm just going to go ahead and extract all those files. And I'm just going to put them on the desktop for now. Now for you, you can go to our server. And on the server, you can see right here, YMS DCO, right? You can go here and you can build your own folder, right? So I'm going to say new folder, and I'm going to call it 3D land. And then I'm just going to select that folder, and then we will extract those to there. Cool. Done. All right. So now I'm going to close that. Check on my CR10. Oop. Pretty close to temp. That's fantastic. So now that we have those files, let's go ahead and go to control. And what we can do now is we have full control over that gantry. And so if I want, these are in millimeters, so if I want to raise the gantry 10 millimeters in the Z direction, I can hit that button there, and we can watch it lift. It's almost like magic. I can just, but that's, say we want to have a little bit higher because we want to actually kind of see what's happening over there. Great. Now, this machine already has some filament in it, and it's printing PLA. So let's go ahead and retract. Now that it's warm, let's retract that. Let's just say 15 millimeters. Then we'll retract that out of the extruder head. Now, it's important to make sure that it's at temp. If you try to do this while it's cold, that filament will break in the extruder head, and then we have to tear the whole thing apart and clean it and get the blockage out. So just make sure it's warm before you do this. All right, now that everything's warm, we have a handle here, or knob here, that we can use to spin this manually back out. And you can probably see it maybe as it comes up through here. Maybe not. It's white on white, so it might be a little bit difficult, right? And if you don't have the patience for that sort of thing, there's also a little lever right here, or that you can depress. And then you can pull this filament out. And basically it's just a pinch, and you can pull this out. We're changing our material here. Now this is PLA, and it's 0.75. That's the stuff to get for these particular extruder heads. They're 2 millimeters, so this is what they want. They can be changed, but just let us know before you do it, because you have to change all the settings in there too, and it's a bit of a fiddly thing. So let us know before you do any of that stuff, or if you need them changed and you don't know how, come find us on a Saturday and we can walk through it together. What we're going to do is come in here, we're going to snip this. We just want to make sure we have a good clean cut there. All of these work a little bit different, but they're mostly the same when you're feeding them in. Some of them feed directly to the top of the unit, some of them feed through the back, or this one feeds through the back, the Prussia feeds through the top. They're all a little different. This one goes through the side. With everything nice and warm, we have a nice clean tip here. There's a little hole in the side of this, and this slides straight in like that. Now you can depress this and slide that in, and sometimes it gets caught, and so you can use this guy here to move it forward. If you're getting a lot of back pressure, it means it's catching on this lip. And so it should go in nice and smooth. As a matter of fact, we should be able to see it travel up here, right? So we're just going to keep doing this until it goes all the way through. Now, if we were in a hurry, we could just pitch this and push this through. Oops. Oh, I got that in there. There you go. There we go. You can see it there. I'm going to slide this in. You can see it right here. And we're going to keep sliding that through until we get to the extruder head, and you'll hit a little bit of resistance, and you know you've come to the end of that. Don't force it. We're loaded. We're ready to go. So let's go back to the computer. Our material, our filament into the 3D printer. We've been using PLA here for this one. And everything's at temp. We go back and make sure everything's warm. Yep, everything's warm. We can go to control, and then we can go ahead and we can extrude. Let's say 15 millimeters. And when we do this, it's going to push that filament through, and we should be able to see it come out of the print head. Or, there we go, out of the extruder. Here we go, look at that. Now, this is extremely hot, so be mindful of it. Let's do that again, just so we can see it. Beautiful, look at that. So now if you're changing colors, you want to keep doing this until you actually saw the color that you wanted. Sometimes there'll be a little bit in the extruder head, and it'll mix in there a little bit. So make sure that you have the color that you want. All right, we're off to the races. Now one of the things we need is we need to prep the surface. Now this has a glass top, and we just use alcohol. This is regular, alcohol. We spray it on a towel here, or a paper towel, and we just clean the surface off, and that's to make sure that it has good adhesion. Now again, each one of these printers is a little different. Like this one has a metal bed that's flexible, that one has a heated bed. So make sure to be mindful of which one you're printing to and its specifications for how it wants you to prep the bed. There's books on this stuff, there's YouTube videos, just look into it and make sure you're doing the right thing. But for this, it's going to be alcohol, and that's good enough for what we're doing. That should be fine. One of the things I want to do, because I want to go right to print, is I'm just going to go ahead and warm up the bed, because this is a heated bed. I'm going to type in 60 degrees Celsius, and I'm going to hit OK. Now that's going to start heating the bed so that there's a warm bed for when we start laying down our filament. It should have good adhesion. So we'll let that go off. And now we'll come back to Kira. Now, if you're working in Blender or Rhino or Fusion 360 or any other CAD program, most of them will export to STL. That's generally what you want. Make sure you're doing it in millimeters, not centimeters, not inches, because then you're going to scale everything. So here we're going to see how those files look that we downloaded. Go to the server here. All right, so I'm going to go find my file, and I can just click on this. It's on the server here. I'm going to grab my file, and it sees that it's an STL file, and I can just click that and drag it onto our bench, and it's going to place it. Oh, look at that. Isn't that cool? Now, we have some controls here, right? So you're going to say, well, geez Louise, we don't want to print it this way, right? Probably the best way to do this is to make this surface on the deck of the machine there. So let's go here, and I should be able to select this, and once I've selected, I have some controls that I can work with over here. And let's say I want to rotate this, and I want to rotate it to lay flat aligned with the build plate. I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to select what side I want. And it automatically places it flat on there. I'm not rotating 90 degrees or 87 degrees, and then it's off a little bit. We know it's flat. Now we can rotate it around using the left mouse. I have control. By pressing that, I can just move around. And then using the right button, I can click here on move, and then any one of these arrows allows me to move it the direction I want. Right now, obviously we don't want to do the blue one. We're already to the build plate the way we want it. But we can move this around. Say we wanted to do multiples of these. we could go ahead and do that. Holding shift and left, we can move this whole deck around to get a little bit better view of what we're doing here. All right, so there is our mixer, Ruby. Now we said that we're just going to do standard printing profile. That should be good enough for this demonstration. But again, take the time to look into that and build it the way you want. Now that we've had this built, we need to slice it. And it says right here, it says slice. So we're going to hit the slice button. Based off of these parameters, it's going to build. It's going to slice this all up. And it's going to tell me how long it's going to take. It's going to take 1 hour and 33 minutes. Okay, now that you know it's going to take 1 hour and 33 minutes, you can go to YMS Schedule and book time on that printer for 2 hours or 1.5 hours. Sometimes these take a long time. Sometimes they take 14 hours. If that's the case, then you're going to book the machine for 14 hours. It's like 15 cents an hour or something like that. So it's not that expensive, and that way we can. It takes care of the wear and tear on the machine, and we have to fix stuff. One of the other things to be aware of: make sure that before you leave this, right, if you're going to have it printing for 14 hours, stick around long enough for the first layers of that print job to be finished, so that you know you have really good adhesion to the bed, so that it isn't going to pop off and leave a big mess. There's things, that you can have, you can come back, if it doesn't work quite right, you'll come back to spaghetti and a big, huge mess. We usually tell people, to try to stay here if you can. Don't let things run unattended. Once we get the cameras in place, you'll be able to go anywhere on the web if you have internet access, and you can come to that IP address and you can check on that printer from home. That's coming soon. We don't have it set up right now. But all right, so now that we have this, you should have this print to Octoprint, right? It already knows that it's the CR10, right? We already opened up. We know that we should be pretty much close to temp now, so great, right? Oh, the other nice thing, once you've printed something here, you can go back, and if it's exactly the way you want it, you can just pull this file up and reprint it right from the web browser. You don't have to go through the slicing software and build the profile all over again. It's already done, it's already saved there. You can just pull it back up. Okay, so great. We're looking pretty good. See, this is where we have our streaming web video if we actually had a camera, but we don't. All right, so now we're going to print to Octoprint. Now again, there's plenty of other things you need to be aware of. Brims and standoffs and all that other stuff. Go watch a YouTube video about it, but I'm not going to cover it here. Now that we've sliced this, we can go to preview and we can see what it's done, right? So it's going to do an outside little bit here to kind of clean up the extruder head, and then we can actually see all of the layers that it's going to print right here. Pretty cool. And there's lots of other stuff too. You can actually have it do a preview and the rest. And then we hit print and we're off to the races, and then we can monitor our print here as well. Now, it sent the data to the Raspberry Pi, and now it's going to go ahead and I think this one doesn't self-level. Right? Yeah, this one has, you have to manually level this one. But it's going to come down and it's going to lay some filament. And there's a bunch of stuff you need to know about the thickness of the filament. If it's too compressed, it's not a good print. If it's too high up, it's not right. So what it's going to do is it's going to lay some filament down right here. There we go, we can see it. And we'll be able to know whether or not that's about right. And so, and we're off to the races here. All right, so there's some things you need to know about filament when it lays down. If it's too compressed, that's not good. If it's too high up, it's not going to get good contact. This is just right, Goldilocks and the Three Bears or whatever it was there. But this looks pretty good. And so we're going to watch this for a bit and make sure that it's going to stick to the build plate before we wander away and go get a cup of coffee or go have lunch.